We want to return now to some breaking news this morning. We're just learning about the movement of the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz and 4 other ships moving into the Red Sea. Let's go straight to CNN's Barbara Starr live at the Pentagon for some perspective on what this could mean, Barbara.
Well, good morning, Kate. U.S. official now confirming the aircraft carrier Nimitz, along with 4 other warships, is entering the Red Sea this morning. Of course, this is the vital waterway between essentially the Persian Gulf region, where the aircraft carrier had been operating, up into the Red Sea, up into the Suez Canal, and onto the Mediterranean. But by being in the Red Sea, that narrow channel of water you see there, that puts these ships within striking range of Syria. To be clear, U.S. officials are saying there's no plan to use the aircraft, the fighter jets, on the deck of the USS Nimitz, no plan to put U.S. pilots over Syria. But this kind of firepower, and along with the 4 other warships, is what they call prudent planning, just in case. It puts a lot of extra firepower directly in the region. If the U.S. sees a contingency where it needs it, it puts it in place to respond if it comes to that. Kate, Chris?
All right, Barbara, thank you very much. Appreciate the reporting this morning. Let's get some analysis. Let's bring in Christiane Amanpour. She is CNN's chief international correspondent and the host of CNN International's Amanpour. Christiane, thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you both.
Well, President Obama is looking to Congress for approval, drawing criticism at home and abroad. What is your take on why?
Well, look, it's all about what is the international community's response to the highest violation under international humanitarian law, and that is the use of weapons of mass destruction, these chemical weapons. Now, in England, they are reeling in Great Britain from the defeat in Parliament. Here in this country, the commentary is still in a state of shock over what happened to David Cameron, because it's not just about this potential action, it's about England, Great Britain's position in foreign policy around the world. Plus, it's always stood shoulder to shoulder in any of these military operations. In France, which is now turning out to be America's most likely ally if a military operation takes place, French president and his ministers are all debating today, and they are sharing the evidence. They say they are absolutely convinced that when they show the evidence, it'll be a slam dunk, if you like, in terms of their belief. They have proof that Assad used chemical weapons. There will be a public debate in the French National Assembly, their parliament, on Wednesday, but there will be no vote. Now, already, though, in France, former prime minister from a conservative party, Sarkozy's party, is saying, hey, if the U.S. had a vote, if Britain had a vote, why can't we have a vote? So we don't know how that's going to go, but right now the Constitution does not require a vote in France, and right now the president says there won't be a vote.
All right. Christiane, let's refocus on this for 1 second, though, in terms of why President Obama specifically is getting criticism when you look at it in the context of who's closer to moving on Syria than he is. China and Russia cleared it out, right? The UN is saying stop to Assad, but no sanctions. The UK is out. France is deciding, as you said. The Arab League, intentionally vague, saying necessary actions must be taken. So why the criticism of the United States president when nobody seems any closer to attacking Syria than he?
Well, that's one of those things that comes up every time there's an issue like this. There is really only one superpower. There's only one country that historically has done this kind of stuff, usually with some kind of a coalition, either UN approval or NATO coalition or a smaller coalition of the willing, as they like to call it. This time, you're right, it's very, very limited. France and the United States seems to be those who will go in right now. Certainly, Turkey wanted to go in. The U.S. apparently hasn't asked Turkey to be part of this. And there is a lot of support from other countries, whether it's New Zealand, Australia. Those countries have also traditionally gone in with the U.S., but are unlikely to in terms of militarily at this point. Israel obviously could do it, but it won't, because it simply doesn't do these kinds of things, although it will strike when its own interests are at stake, and it has struck now 4 times in Syria to prevent weapons moving from Syria to Hezbollah, and it has struck with impunity. And Israel, in other words, there was no retaliation, and Israel feels very strongly that it wants to see, and I spoke to the former head of Israeli military intelligence just as this debate was all getting underway, Israel would like to see Syria's government forces, its aircraft, its air power, its missile power, its chemical weapons ability degraded. That is good for Israel, and actually Israel would like to see a really significant strike by the United States, and that's probably not going to happen beyond the punitive measures that the President and the Secretary of State have already outlined.
Israel being noted right now for their deafening silence on this as they wait with much of the other international community. Weighing the potential ups and downs to the attack, Christian, where is your mind right now in terms of whether you think this happens?
Well, just on Israel, Israel would be silent in this regard. There's nothing in it for Israel to talk publicly about this because it will always be considered the bogeyman. People will start blaming it. There'll be a conspiracy. Oh, it's all because of Israel. So that's why they're being quiet right now. But their support is for this action. If there is action, you know, who knows? We'll see. You guys cover the politics. We'll see what's happening. We know that Barbara Starr has reported, and we know that all the military seems to be in place. And let's just remember, having covered many of these actions in the past, these are very, very limited. We are not talking about a war. We're not even talking about an air campaign, according to what's been publicly stated so far. We're talking about potentially cruise missiles, other kinds of firepower that they call, you know, standoff. In other words, on ships and maybe even planes from far away. But it's not a boots-on-the-ground campaign such as the Iraq War of 2003 or, you know, Afghanistan, the first Iraq War, etc.
It's an interesting commentary when bombing is not seen as a major military action. Christian Amanpour, thank you very much.
It is, Chris.
Go ahead, finish your point, Christian. I'm not taking it.
It is.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It is. There's no doubt about it. I'm not belittling what it is, but it's not the kind of campaign that we saw being prepared and then activated in Iraq in 2003. It's a very different, limited use of firepower. That's the objective.
Yes.
Now, what actually happens, we'll see.
And that is the key question. Thank you very much for refocusing, and Christian, always a pleasure. Happy Labor Day to you, even though it doesn't quite apply the same way there. Always great to have you on New Day.
And to you and all the viewers.
Thank you, Christian. Christian Amanpour joining us from London. Now,